Yeah, I got two guys. I'm gonna try and get you. Just up there, so.
Everything went over.
We'll probably come in here.
Yes. Steve, I realized when I parked out back by you that it was raining when I was coming out of here. It's like, that's a bit of a dash. There. Well, that's the only part of my fitness program that survived, so I'll have to do.
But yeah, it's there. Very practical. Place to park, get out without mobs out.
The can, yeah.
I'll figure it out soon.
Well, plus, when half the world shows up, they're also on very many parking sections. That's my official excuse. Yeah.
Rainy weather.
Yeah.
Oh, I've gotten used to that. I expect an audience to be there.
I can ring up a few people.
Yeah.
Fireworks.
Oh, man.
My seat. Okay, we've got 7:30. Let's call this meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
with one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Mr. Moreno. Mr. Dantley.
Here.
Mr. Harney.
Here.
Mr. Thorne.
Here.
Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Nimitz.
Here.
Okay, we've got 5 trustees in attendance. We have a quorum. We have a meeting. Governor Pritzker has once again extended the gubernatorial proclamation, allowing open meeting act changes to allow us to have remote access and remote attendance at the meetings. As of this evening, we have 2 trustees attending remotely, Trustee Harney and Nemick. The other 4 trustees, Hoffman, Thorne, Delaney, and
Yeah.
Delaney's
is alien.
Are here present, and the 4th trustee, Moreno, is absent. With the remote attendance of 2 of the trustees, all votes will be by roll call. With that said, we will move on and take a motion to approve the minutes of March 16, 2022.
So moved.
Second, Diatley.
Moved by Thorne, seconded by Diatley. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? There being none, roll call, please. Mr. Nimitz.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman. Yes. Mr. Thorne.
Yes.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Mr.
Yes,
Aye.
Either that or we need to call 911. Okay, we've got 5 affirmative votes and 1 no vote, motion still passes. Okay, the next item is the president's report. I've already notified you of the governor's extension of the proclamation. Extending remote attendance at the meetings. The next one I've got is 3 updates on developments that are coming before the village. These items will be going to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The first one is the Collinborn property. This is the approximately 6 acres just west of our strip mall now on Route 72. We have had a proposal for a storage facility there. We are now in the process of considering a zoning text amendment to allow this use. So they're going to have an application for a zoning change or a special use. This will be going to the P&Z. And so you guys will be, I'm looking at one of the members of the P&Z now, saying you guys. But yeah, the P&Z will be considering that in the near future. The second item of development that is coming before the board is a rather new one. Matter of fact, it is so new that there are things moving on it as of this afternoon. 1001 West Main, formerly known as the Home Life Center, also known as the Maxway Motors Center, has now got someone else interested in purchasing the property. They have made an offer on it. It's been accepted, and they will be showing up here at Village Hall within the next couple of days to, oh, I'm getting told it will be tomorrow. I'm clairvoyant, folks.
Yeah.
But yes, we will be getting the escrow check from them tomorrow. So this is a process that will begin rather quickly here also and be going to the P&Z. The new people, the new project that is being proposed for this is a Polish bistro and smokehouse and wedding reception. Banquet. So once again, another item that falls in the plate of P&Z. Once again, we need to consider, zoning changes, special uses if necessary, that will have to be brought to the board. The third one is the Gall property. This is also on Route 72. It is on the north side. It's the only property that the village of Sleepy Hollow has that extends north of 72. And that one, the owner, Mr. Gall, has got numerous issues that he would like to clarify with the village and with the planning and zoning board. One is that there are actually 4 parcels in that unit up there, that piece of property, and it is zoned R1, which is unconforming because it is basically a mixed-use industrial retail type of utilization at this point, with some smattering of storage, and I'm not quite sure what else. But that is for the P&Z to just shuffle through and see if they can, come up with something that makes sense for everybody going forward. Once again, that's another application for zoning change. Subdivision, we're not quite sure what. This is going to the P&Z for their consideration and for their review and recommendations back to this body in the future. Okay. Is there anything else that Collinborn, Main Street, and the Gall property? Well, on the laundry list for the P&Z.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
With the bistro and the banquet facility and all that, if that goes through, I have no problem with it, but is there a chance that we'd be able to, when you come out of that, have a sign that says no right turn? If it is our property, because that would only increase the traffic up Locust, and we have enough challenges there already. And if that lets out at times like 360 does, which I've sat in that parking lot and watched it on a Saturday night or Friday. And it's one car after another down Locust and making a left and out to 31. So with this, that could give you twice the amount of traffic and it could get pretty heavy. So could the village do that says no right turn?
Possible. That's something we throw to the P and Z. You know.
I think, well, somebody should maybe bring that up with them just being a, what's that?
Yeah, you just did.
Good.
Well, being proactive because of all the
Well, we may
people
even,
could sit
we may
there
even
when they
want to
might
talk to,
make that right and just pull them right over.
we may even want to talk to our neighbors across the street and ask, West Palm Beach, here the left-hand turns on.
Yeah. Good idea.
It used to be that way.
Well,
Yeah.
we wouldn't let them in, they wouldn't let us out, and we wouldn't,
It was even set up as you came out the curb that you could take a left, but then they eliminated that.
we need somebody to mute. Okay. All right, here's another item I've got. On Monday, May 23rd, Chief Farmer and I met with a couple of, three of the residents of the village, representing the Safer Together Sleepy Hollow group. We met with our state representative, Suzanne Ness, at her office. We had quite a nice little conversation. It was an hour and a half. A lot of Q&A and back and forth between us. They did admit that obtaining grants isn't as easy as it does look. There are some requirements and specifications that make it a little difficult to just say, hey, I want that money and we're going to get it. The one item that did come out of that meeting was the suggestion that this group, Safer Together Sleepy Hollow, form a 501c3. I think it's a great idea. A 501c3 would show us their commitment to the village. It would give them a legitimacy. They could literally go out and ask for donations from the public, and it would be a tax deduction by going to a C3 organization. And then that organization could provide those funds to the village with, some type of requirements of what they would be used. After, 40,000, they wanted speed monitors, they could give us 40,000, said we use it on speed monitors, type of thing. But that was just one of the suggestions that came up, is that maybe this group, should they stop forming a 501c3. And I think they've got a perfect example in the service club, which has done it for years. The service club has been providing the entertainment and the social aspects of the village. This group would be looking at, public improvement, public safety type of projects to fund. So there would not be a competition between the service club and the Safer Together group. They could maybe work together with that type of stuff. I think, they've got an example here in the village of a group that can do it, that is a 501c3. So I just think it's a good idea for them to consider and to work with it maybe going forward. So other than that, it was a really nice little meeting we had. So it's, it was a great time for Q&A with us. Okay, that's it for the president's report. Move to the clerk's report.
I have no report tonight.
Thank you, Tony. Planning and zoning commission. We have no report from P and Z this evening. That should change in the future. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. In your package, a memorandum to me discussing some of the different funding ideas that could be considered, I guess, for the park improvements that have been discussed by this board recently. The minutes of the meeting reflected two different ideas, whether there was a way for a one-time assessment or if a referendum could be proposed to find, to raise extra dollars for the replacement of park equipment in Sabatino Park. So I did survey a couple of different options for you, and frankly, the one-time assessment idea is not very practical. I don't think we should do a special service area. It'd be problematic because that statute calls for identifying an area that receives a special benefit from some type of service. Sabatino Park is a village-wide park, not subject to benefiting any one particular part of the village. It's used for village-wide festivals. It has a pavilion that can be rented, by anyone in the village, and so on. The special assessment process, you don't see that used very much anymore at all, and you can see there's a number of steps to go through, including a court of petition and approval to implement that, and then of course all the collection efforts fall on the village itself. There's no backup to that. So it really comes back to a referendum question. The village has proposed a couple of different referenda in the past 10 years or so to raise its general overall taxing capacity. I forget what percentage, was it half or a third of the amount that was originally projected as necessary, finally did pass in the last referendum was proposed, but that a similar type referendum, which would ask to increase the limiting rate, the tax rate that's put on you by the property tax extension limitation law, could be proposed. There's time to do that for the November election. If you would want to pursue that, my memorandum has projections for the tax impact on various values of home, partly because that's required for this type of referendum. It's information that must appear on the ballot itself. And secondly, there were a couple of different numbers. The $211,000 number comes from your minutes because it had been proposed that it might be a $185 per household needed. There's 1,144 households, so do the math and come to a 211,000. We did have a meeting, village president, Mr. Harney, and I, to revisit that, and Mr. Harney suggested that 125,000 might be another avenue, and you can see, of course, it's a lesser impact. My one comment about all that is that there's using that tax referendum system does not allow you to put the same amount on each household, because that's the formula, of course, is the rate times the equalized assessed value of each property. So the more valuable your property, you're going to pay a little more in tax increase. And there's really not a way to specify in the referendum itself that this will be a one-time charge and the village will then reduce the rate again the next year back to what it had been. So that's going to be a trust factor in the board's publicizing what is the purpose of and what is the extent of this proposed increase, should you elect to go that way. So August 15 is the key date. That's the last meeting at which this board could enact a resolution that would approve a referendum for the November 2022 general election date. So there's a little bit of time, but as you know, how time flies. So if you're going to pursue this, it needs some further discussion and a consensus among you fairly soon, so we can get all this organized and ready for action. Mr. Harney, is a good summary of where we're at.
Can't hear you, Ed.
You're muted, Ed.
There you go.
How about now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Seems to be a problem a lot of us have. I'll have a little bit more to add on my report, but that says it all. It was well put. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Schuster?
I guess when it comes up, because it changes the whole scenario, being that it's, it's not a one-time thing.
Well, it could be.
Could be, but yeah.
Could be, but
If it was
But
passed,
yeah.
you would make it in time for your required levy for 2022, which is due on the fourth Tuesday of December. So you'd have 6 weeks to put that into the tax levy ordinance, and then that would be collected next summer.
but then we have to roll it back
Right.
and
The
let's
next
say
five-
trust but
The
verify.
following December, you would roll
Right.
it back, because otherwise, you've got that new increased limit. And that's subject to the property tax extension limitation law, which, given the inflation we're having, is maybe as much as 5%, but it's that or the cost of living. So technically, you could keep that step up on the books, but if you drop it back down, then the following year, you're at that new, or back to that reduced level.
So in a sense, what it
But
was
there's no way to
saying,
build that into, excuse me, I'm sorry, there's no way to build that into the referendum itself that says this is 1 year only and then we'll reduce it back down. Because the referendum has to follow the statutory language.
Yeah, and if we're gonna do a referendum like that, my feelings are we could utilize those funds for in a lot of other ways versus the playground.
And it goes back to my comment that the last referendum that did pass was not at the level of projected revenue needs. It was scaled back to get it enacted, take one step and not 2 steps all at once.
so we went back to the
So-
second step, it lost.
Right, so that's not a bad point. It's all about sales. Sales mission.
And that's.
More
the
to
other
come, I
part.
guess.
Yeah, that's the other part about it. If we were to make it a one-time thing, that means we would have to repeal it. And 4 of the people sitting on the board won't be on the board, but not, or will be up for a re-election before that repeal would come up in that next time. So it's like, yeah, hey, I'm an elected politician, trust me. I'm gonna repeal this. That's another issue with it too. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Schuster? If not, thank you, Mark. Engineer, Mr. Steele.
Good evening. In your board packet, you'll see a memo from me in regards to the 2022 street program. IDOT needs a couple documents signed. The first is a resolution to appropriate the MFT funds. The second is another resolution to appropriate the Rebuild Illinois funds, since they require, it's supposed to be 2 separate funds, and so they need 2 resolutions. The third is just for the clerk and the village president to sign documents in the future. And then the fourth is just the estimate of maintenance costs. You can see that the MFT funds being utilized is $123,865.40. The Rebuild Illinois funds is $217,746.60. That comes out to a total of about $341,612. Basically, that is the projected amount to August when the construction will actually start. The reason why we went with that is just because that's a good base point for the when construction is going to start and the amount that we can use for that. In all, for the including engineering, construction inspection, and testing, is the program is going to be $382,439.32. So the board needs to approve those 4 items. Any questions?
Questions from Mr. Steele? If not, we entertain a motion to approve resolution for the maintenance of Illinois highways. Do we have a number on this?
Excuse me, are we gonna do these individually or are we gonna do it as a package?
Let's do them individually.
Okay, the first one will be 543.
Okay, resolution 543, for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, in the amount of $123,865.40. Motion so approved and authorize village president and clerk to sign.
So moved.
Second, Diatley.
Moved by Thorne, seconded by Diatley to approve resolution 541,
543.
543. Any comments, questions, discussion? Not, roll call, please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, the motion so passes. The next item would be resolution 544.
544.
Okay, this is a resolution involving the Rebuild Illinois Fund, authorizing the village president and the village clerk to sign such documents for the amount of $217,746.60. Have a motion?
So move, Harney.
Second, Thorne.
Moved by Harney, seconded by Thorne. Any comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, the motion so passes. Thank you, gentlemen. The next item will be resolution 545. So let me get down to that one. This is a resolution with the estimate of maintenance cost in the amount of $382,000. And let me go to expand. $382,439.32. We have a motion to so approve, the village engine, or the village president, village clerk to so sign.
So moved, Diatley.
Second, Thorne.
Moved by Diatley, seconded by Thorne to approve resolution 545. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, the motion so passes. The next item we've got is resolution 546. Resolution 546 refers to BLR 1422. Which is
That was,
contract for estimate of cost.
I think the one that you did before was the 14,222, because that was the amount. The last one is just for you to authorize in order to go out to bid.
Okay. The last one is the authorization to go out to bid. We have a motion to so approve, resolution 546, authorizing the bid.
So moved, Diatley.
Second, Harney.
Moved by Diatley, seconded by Harney to approve the authorization to go out to bid for the 2022 road program. Resolution 546. Any comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, the motion still passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else, Mr. Steele?
That is it. Any questions for me?
One question, how are we coming along with the water main project and the engineering and possible low-cost loans or grants?
I've been in contact with EPA. It's kind of a back and forth, kind of figuring out what our demands are, not demands, but amount that we're going to be requesting and kind of figuring it out from there, at least as far as when we can get on and if they're going to have available funds for us. As far as design, just looking to finalize everything out. Really, it's just working with Julie, basically the utility locates in order to finalize out the exact location of it. Should have here something shortly just for everybody to take a look at, study on the weekends or late at night. Have any comments or anything like that?
We're working down the timeline. Okay, we're still at schedule or ahead of schedule.
As far as I can get it, yes.
Good.
It's gonna depend on the funding, of course. So.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Steele? There being none, thank you, Jeff. Okay, comments from the we got Director of Finance.
Request a motion for the approval of the warrants in the amount of $147,099.12.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Thorne, seconded by Hoffman to approve the warrants of June 6, 2022 in the amount of $147,099.12. Any comments, questions, additions, deletions? There being none, roll call please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Diatley.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, motion still passes. And abstains his name to Blaine, but before the night's over.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, Eugene. Okay, no comments from the public. Okay, move on to trustees report. Mr. Harney, roads and parks.
Okay, regarding the discussion about Sabatino Park and what we're going to do about it. The question left unanswered was, well, what can we get for our 100,000 that we do have budgeted for? So I had an in-person meeting last week with Burke Playground Equipment. They came out to Sabatino Park. This is the company that was recommended that we talked to both by the Dundee Township Park District and Hitchcock Design. They do operate under the Sourcewell Group. That is a cooperative buying group where we do not have to go out to bid. Just a matter of note, any contract signed this year, they will honor that same price for next year. Normally, they go up 3 to 4% a year, but they said, be warned, who knows what next year will bring. So I gave a paper copy of, they gave us a representation of what 100,000 would buy. I put a paper copy in everybody's mailbox, and it should be in the agenda tonight. And that picture will show you a proposed group of playground equipment. Naturally, that can all be changed for specific items. So that's what the equipment would cost, about $100,000, very close. That is a quote from them without installation. Installation would be another $40,000. However, there are some options we could look at to possibly getting around that. You can look at a community build. And by the way, I will furnish information specifically what a community build means. And I'll do that by email to all the trustees. And they spell out, when I first heard that, I thought it was a simple process. It's not quite so simple. And you'll see when you review the documents. And I'd like to have that up for discussion after everybody has a chance to look it over. For example, you'll need people to unload the truck 3 to 5 days ahead of time. We'll need to put in a couple dozen holes, fill them with cement. We'll need 10 to 15 mechanically inclined laborers for the installation. And installation of this size would normally take 3 days. Some community builds have gone very well. Some have not. It all depended on weather and people showing up when they say they're going to show up, et cetera. But anyways, more specifics, and let's talk about that next meeting. Let's see. Anything else there? Oh, Public Works regarding the roads last week. Super busy week with Culvert work, but that's going to be addressed in new business. So I would recommend we just wait and discuss it in detail then. So any questions at this point regarding Sabatino, or? I would welcome any suggestions from residents with different ideas as to how we could possibly raise 40,000. A community build would be nice, but there definitely is some challenges there. And that's all I have to report.
Okay. Any questions for Ed? All right. Thank you, Ed. Next one, finance, Mr. Hoffman.
Just a couple things. I guess we'll regroup at some point with the finance committee in the next couple of weeks. Review, the audit team's coming in the 24th. Am I correct, Eugene? So
It's a preliminary.
so we'll talk about that. And also, just to kind of review what's transpired with Sabatino at that point, and at that point, see what the options are, and just kind of give them my feedback and their feedback and see where it goes. The other component is the credit card. Talked to Eugene about that today. I've been going back and forth with Kamala, you know her. I've been there 3 times. She's talked to 3 people so far too, and still hasn't given me an answer. And in a nutshell, what she did with this, the application I have here, she said that they still need a name on there. And I said, that is not what I understand. And I'm talking other villages. I said, that's not what I understand. You do not need a name. She wanted a name of an individual, one of the 3 of us, and her social security number, just as to have. And I said, not going to happen. And I said, nobody's going to do that. I said, this is a village. And as Eugene and I talked today, that's the purpose of a tax number. So at that point, I'm going to move now over to First American and talk to them. But Eugene said that he is aware of someone that works there. He's going to follow up with them and see if he can get some different information. But she kept pointing to the terms and conditions, and she refers to us as a nonprofit. And I said, we're not a nonprofit per se, we're a government entity. And she said she has no idea. There's nothing that separates that. And I said, well, there has to be. So I can see your frustration, but I haven't given up. But it's been challenging, all just for a credit card and for a limit of $5,000. Now, if somebody wants to put their signature on that paper, they're more than welcome to do it, but I advise against it.
Try another bank.
We are.
Yes,
The full faith and credit of the village is what you're pledging, not somebody's personal guarantee.
and they wanted 2 years of our finances, and I'm sure that's public knowledge, isn't it? That's all public knowledge, and I told them that.
Not hiding.
So I said, you can find that easily. So
It's the nicest way you could.
that's it. Nothing else. Not tonight.
All right, thank you, George.
Didn't have to-
Water and sewer, Mr. Nimitz.
I will go ahead for the sake of discussion, move to approve ordinance 2022-8, amending the village code, title 6, public ways and properties. And if we get a second, I will defer to Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Nemec.
Well, we need a second first.
Second, Diatley.
There we go. Okay.
Nimitz, seconded by Diatley. Continue.
Okay, Mr. Schuster.
So there was a suggestion. Well, first of all, you have an ordinance in your package with some attached text, and you'll see that you have some updated text in your computers this evening. So, as I understand, part of this was Mrs. Detmer noted some deficiencies in the water and sewer regulations, and especially about well protection and septic systems, and wished to propose that those be added into Title VI of the Village Code. And also that her office, the Building Safety and Zoning Office, be identified as a starting point for permitting and questioning and applications and so on throughout Title VI, where permits and applications are required. So she took the impetus and drafted up basically a rewrite of Title VI of the Village Code. So that was step one. Step two, Mr. Nemec was looking at that, and he and I then went through not the building code specific proposals, but some of the other sections of the Title VI and made a few edits of that just for some clarification, consistency of language, no substantive changes there at all. In the course of that, third, we identified that in Title VII, the building regulations, there were some rules about swimming pools that dovetailed back into the water regulations. So when you fill your swimming pool with village water, you pay a bulk usage rate, and you have to make a deposit of funds in advance to be held by the village. And so that edit was added in to tie back to the regulations, all the changes in Title VI. Mrs. Detmer has proposed, and you have in your computer tonight, a way to take that, just the water language part of that swimming pool and just move it, park it in Title VI altogether as a new section 6-3-9, which will work out just fine. She's also informed me that there's some additional swimming pool edits that need or a different code that's she's going to propose to be adopted regarding swimming pools and the construction side of it and location and things like that. I know the staff is anxious to get these in place. We are also in discussions with West Dundee and trying to update the wastewater services agreement. Part of that will be billing and tied into water, so it'd be useful to move this along if possible this evening. If there aren't any other questions or concerns about the updated draft that's in your computer. The one thing I would note about that is that in section 6-3-9, by just moving it in, first it created a new section and it renumbered some of the other sections. So the numbering in there needs to be changed. So where it says 6-3-10, it needs now to be 6-3-11. And where it says 6-3-11 or 12, it needs to say 13. But otherwise, those regulations, I think, look good. They definitely accomplished what Mrs. Detmer wanted to do, which was about water wells, septic systems, and And then also address some of Mr. Nemick's concerns just about how water billing and everything works in the village. So that's my summary. Barb may have some additional comments, but I think it's a good rewrite of that title. I think it's ready for your approval, and that will allow staff then to implement. One of the things that's being changed is the demand charge is going to be increased from $20 to $30. That was discussed here before in particular. And the consensus was to move ahead on that. It won't be in time for the billing that's due to go out in the next day or two, but certainly the one after that. Any questions? Good summary?
I guess has everybody read it completely?
I have read it completely, yeah. So all those highlighted yellow areas, I actually read some of them twice.
Yeah.
So, no, it seems very comprehensive and encompasses all the different points. So,
Looks like it took a lot of work and it's well appreciated.
A little over 40 hours.
Yeah.
Any other?
The only other thing I'd like to point out is one of the things in the rewrite, as Mr. Schuster pointed out, was trying to keep things consistent and same throughout. So since we now have a director of finance, instead of a village treasurer, I changed those to like finance director, just so we have it consistent throughout. Lots of little edits and commas, semicolons to make a sentence understandable. If it takes me 4 times to reread something, it means something. But a comma and that kind of thing. The old editor in me, I apologize. And also, I don't know, did you get the one that, Tony, were you able to send it out just before the meeting?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If Mr. Schuster wants it pulled out, I can easily do that. The text of the ordinance itself is the same. The only other thing that I was going to mention is I had initially not had the item that Trustee Nemick wanted back in, which is 9-3-2 Public Works Department / Water and Sewer Division. So that's been put back in as 6-3-2. The swimming pool drops to 6-3-10. This is consistent with the water supply because there's also wastewater from swimming pools. It's also addressed under the storage. So it's not like it's so off, just picking it out of the sky to throw it into the water. I tried to put it in a consistent manner with it. And it's also just before the rates. So it hopefully tried to keep things moving smoothly, and with that, I'll be quiet.
Barbara, it references in there swimming pool, but that differentiate between above ground and in ground.
Has nothing to do with
Yes,
that,
yeah.
sir, because it's purely with the wastewater and with the water usage. It has nothing to do with the construction, which will fall under the new construction code.
Okay, so when are we supposed, or are people when they put in a pool supposed to let the village know one way or the other, a permit, or there's no
Well, they-
permit
Yes, they're.
for above ground?
They're,
To fill it
if
or to
there's,
build it?
Well, if you put an above ground up, I see more and more above grounds popping up. And they're pretty visible. And I'm just wondering if there are no permits, then do they notify the village that they've used? Some of them can take, anywhere from, a couple thousand to several thousand gallons. So
Right,
Are we-
they're supposed to make a deposit with the village before they start that process.
even for above ground,
Yeah, for any pool.
if that's the case, then I'd say you got the majority of above grounds out there that we don't even know about.
and any above ground pool that is capable of holding more than 24 inches of water requires a building permit underneath.
Well, every one of these are over 24 inches.
Yeah, the water is 24 inches.
Well, the
Because there's
pools,
some of those have like that big rounded area.
no, I'm very familiar with them. But I know that these are probably a minimum, I wouldn't even say 36, I'd say 42 inches.
I understand. Some have-
So how do we make sure? I'm just, people they want sheds, they want fences and all that. And we've got all these people out there now that are already in non-compliance. And, if we do the same thing in the future with sheds and fences and all that, you're gonna have the same thing. People are just gonna pop them up and there's no control. These are in the middle of yards where anybody can jump in. I mean, what my daughter went through to put an in-ground pool in Huntley, I mean, to say it was sheer hell, was an understatement. And we've got them popping up all over the place and they're as blatant as day and night. If you drive around, there's a couple of them that you see right there along the side of the yard.
We've started some enforcement actions perhaps against some of those people.
Well, I think we need to, if that's the case. I don't want to be an SOB about it, but the bottom line is that they're supposed to know, and we're changing all these ordinances. The ordinances don't mean a damn thing if we're not going to enforce it. We can put all the work in the world.
That's not a new ordinance that a building permit's required.
Right.
Or deposit for water. You need to inform the code enforcement official if you see something. Or
Check and see if they got it.
stepper, so that she can see if the permit was pulled.
And when you ride around the village, just take a look. You'll see a lot of pools.
I think you do that now.
Take those addresses, George, and check.
What's that?
I said, take those addresses and check with her and see if they are.
And I've literally given people stop work orders with permit application in the code section, straight out of the code book, and they still don't come in for permit. So that's why some are going to enforcement.
Yeah, and that's,
If we
I
are
guess we need
aware
to
of
do it.
And they're-
No, I mean, you gotta stand up for your code.
I don't like to be an SOB about it, but I said when I came in here, I was gonna, we have to dig into the minutia, we'll dig into the minutia.
Okay, any other comments or questions on
May I
one
just-
dash eight?
Well, just throwing out based on your comment, I do request if anybody needs anything, I believe you all have my cell phone numbers. You can text me, you can call me. I have several that are very kind to call me, so I'm not up here every day. I don't drive every village street every day. So if you see something going on, let me know and I'll gladly check it out.
I have a question for you, Mrs. Different, because it's just a practical question. The attachment, the textual, that is not in final form yet. So we're voting on the ordinance.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I think it is.
It's
With
the
the exception of the change in the numbers in section 6-3-10, as I recited, it
So
should
with-
be in final.
so with the exception, it's not in final form, but it will be in final form once you make those changes.
The approval, right, the
Thank
approval
you.
should include those changes and you'll have it tomorrow.
I have to put the two of these things together, and I just want to make sure that it works that way.
And post it tomorrow.
I will.
So-
We've already.
So did I,
So
Good.
we got to, the one thing is the board has not seen those corrections. They haven't opened their email.
So we're voting on Mark's version, and Mark is gonna make the corrections that,
No,
They've been, the version you're voting on,
was sent to the village trustees this afternoon. Or
well, I got it after the meeting started.
Yeah, if it's the one that Barb provided me, that went
Yeah.
almost at the time the meeting started.
right,
I noticed there were some changes in there that had been added from your draft, Mark, so can we vote on the version that was in the packet, and then you can make the changes that need to be in there and give it to Tony for tomorrow?
That was 6
that would
hours.
not be
ahead.
my recommendation.
Say again, I couldn't hear your.
no,
The one change that's been made, Joe, is that the change to the swimming pool water supply in Title VII has been inserted into Title VI as Section 6-3-10 for swimming pool water supply. And the sections after that have been renumbered.
But I've already saw in their paragraph that you had deleted and the final copy is back in there, so I'm wondering whether changes were made and not corrected.
Barb had just recited to you that she wanted to reinsert section 6-3-2, which you had asked be taken out. So you can discuss that with the board.
Barb, why did you want it, why are we putting 6-3-2 back in?
I'm
After
sorry,
the
I thought
recommendation of the attorney to take it out?
I must have misread it. I thought you wanted it back in.
No,
No. Attorney Schuster wanted it out and I wanted it out, so.
that was intentionally deleted.
Okay, I will renumber it. Take
No,
six-
just intentionally delete it and then leave all the numbers the same if you would, please, so that we don't have a mix up on the numbering.
I
Can we
already
do
had
that?
that in the one that they received as an update prior to this meeting. The only thing I changed just before the meeting was putting that back in.
Right, so we'll just say that's intentionally deleted. That way, all your numbering stays the same afterwards.
But they were all renumbered.
The same as you have them. 6-3-2 will have a number, but it'll say intentionally deleted. So 6-3-3 will be exactly the same, and so on. It's, I find it's too hard to track the cross references if you start renumbering. But, I mean, for purposes of voting tonight, if we had 2 weeks to do it, it'd be easy. But that'd be my suggestion.
So I should amend my,
All the other numbering stays the same throughout.
so the motion should be to approve the 2022-08 that was emailed out at 7:30 tonight and accept change, which was 732, Mark? To read intentionally deleted,
6-3-2,
to read intentionally deleted.
correct.
Okay. You got that, Tony?
Yes, sir.
So that's a motion.
That's a motion to amend.
Second, yeah.
Okay, hold on. Moving on.
Sorry, just getting excited.
How we doing, Joe? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, so on the motion to amend, to intentionally delete section 6-3-2.
Do we have a second?
Well, we do. Mr.
Yeah.
Diatley,
Who was the
also
first?
known as Delaney.
Who was the first?
Hemick made the motion to amend.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Diatley seconded. So on that amendment, we need a roll call, please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Hi.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes and no negative votes on the amendment, and so passes. On the main motion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Hi.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, and the motion so passes. Thank you all. Anything else, Joe?
No, I think that's more than enough.
I second them. Oh.
Oh, no,
Duly noted. Water's muddy. Okay, police and public safety, Mr. Diatley, AKA Delaney.
Just a quick note, the chief has told me that we do have gas in the tanks now and we are using it and saving money. So I do appreciate all his work on that because I know it took a lot of time to do that. And then chief, you have anything you need to add?
I just gotta thank Kyle, because when the fire marshal gave us a short punch list, his guys jumped on it, extended a cement pad for us, did it the right way, and so thanks, Kyle, for getting that done.
Thank you. That's all.
All right, thanks, Steve. Thank you, Chief. Oh, building and environment, Mr. Thorne.
Yeah, we, one quick thing here. We are proceeding in the process of creating a new website for the village. There have been some approvals of some preliminary designs. And I think at this point, it's going to start kind of picking up as far as the actual design part comes in. And should start moving fairly quickly at this point. That's all I got.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Thorne? If not, thank you, Mark. Building and zoning, Mr. Perino. No messages, no notes, so I'll have no report this evening. Old business, any old business to come before the board? Being no old business, new business. We're back to water and sewer.
Sorry. I will yield my time to Mr. Schuster because we revised all the ordinances, last year, 2 years, 3, to cover improvements by homeowners over village infrastructure. We had a water main break at 112 Hilltop, so Mr. Schuster said he would brief us on what the village's responsibilities are to repair such items.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mark.
I did say that, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah. And I have to look up the code, because I didn't get ready for that.
Just while you're looking that up, so we had, for the board members that may or may not have been around, we had issues with decks being built over sewer boxes, driveways being built over service lines, over valves, over manhole covers, otherwise. So Mark very diligently amended all the village code, and after a great deal of discussion, we clarified what responsibilities are of the village legally for restoring improvements that homeowners have made, and this is our first incidence of such. So, go ahead, Mark.
Mark's still looking.
Oh, okay.
Tell you what, you want us to go on to
Yeah,
another item?
could we pass this and come back to it in a moment?
I'll come back to
I know
Mr. Schuster
exactly
in a
what
minute.
we're looking for.
We'll pick up, another new business, Public Works. Kyle, you have, a request to hire a part-time seasonal worker?
Yeah, for $12 an hour, and he can do 2 days a week. Basically, I'd have him just mow the big fields. I'm looking for board approval on that.
Motion so authorize the hire of a part-time seasonal worker, $12 an hour and 16 hours a week.
Yes.
So moved.
So
Moved by
moved.
Thorne, seconded by Nemec, to authorize the hiring of a part-time seasonal worker at $12 an hour, with a minimum of 16 hours a week through the season. Any further comments, questions, or discussion?
It'd sure kick Kyle free with other areas. I think it's a good deal for everybody.
Okay, no other comments, roll call, please.
Mr. Dattley.
Aye.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
Mr. Thorne.
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, the motion so carries. The individual is so hired. Thank you all. Next item of new business is roads and parks. Discussion and approval of the estimate for culvert replacements. Mr. Hardy, roads and parks.
I'll turn it right over
Mr.
to
Killen.
Kyle.
All right,
Mr.
so
Killen.
I have in your packet, there's estimates to do culvert replacements at Glen Oak and Walnut Drive. It's right at the kind of where all the parents drop their kids off at the school parking lot. The culvert current culvert there has a hole in it. I tried to jet it out, and we punched another hole in it, so it's pretty much decaying. The other locations are, it's basically the same for every culvert that I have on the list, but 1055 Van Tassel Road, Old Brummel Court, Katrina Lane, and Acorn Drive. Each culvert to have for ponds estimate, each culvert replacement will be $3,790. That does not include the cost of the pipe itself, the gravel, or the asphalt. The asphalt patching, some might fall under Jeff's street program, but I have to wait and see how we're looking at it with funds and what that comes out to once we go out to bid for that. So any questions about that? Total project cost would be around $14,870. That's that I included with material.
I spoke with Kyle about this. There's no surprises here.
Is this the same question as item A?
No,
No.
this is different. I don't know, it's private driveways.
And these culverts that we're talking about are meant for driveways?
No, these are either village streets.
Just in the right of way?
Now, what was that comment you made at the end, Kyle, that included the material?
So the total cost around 14,870. That's including my estimates of material, gravel, asphalt, and PVC culverts. That's what I'm going to these days.
You had 3790 up 4 times, it's 15,160.
Is it? Without the redo my estimate.
You know, I thought you said the 3790 did not include the material. We had those 4 3790s together.
I gotta I'll have to check my notes here.
Or you have a long walk to your car.
I know, so do you. I'll have a dorsal thing by the time I get to my car.
3790 times 3 is 11,000.
Good 4.
4. I do it 4. All right, so then let's see. Add another 3,000 for around 3,000 for materials. We're looking at 18,000.
So we're at 18,160. Not to
Yeah.
exceed.
Yeah, because that number could drop with asphalt paving if it falls under the street program.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the culvert replacement for multi-locations with an amount of not to exceed $18,160.
So move, Harney.
Nemec, second.
I'm gonna give the guy on the big screen the benefit of the doubt since. Okay, moved by Harney, seconded by Nemec to approve the replacement of the various culverts. Not an amount not to exceed $18,160. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call please.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne.
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes, and motion so passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Next item, this one might be related to the first one. It's water and sewer again, Mr. Nemec.
It is actually not. As much as I would like to take the floor again, I believe it's roads and parks, but I'm certain Mr. Harney is going to defer to Mr. Killinger, so I will do that for him.
Thank you.
Yeah, this one, I don't know what category we're gonna go under because the issue is, attached in your packet is a map, a picture of the project at hand. So basically, there's a catch basin at 942 Willow that the village installed. And the pipe running from the catch basin to the creek is collapsing. It runs along the roadside, but it's technically not the road. And it's drainage water, so it's not wastewater.
Stormwater from the roads.
Stormwater, well, stormwater from yards and everything. And then the other issue we're gonna have with this one, the estimate's for $11,000 and it can't come out of the roads fund, out of the general fund, because I won't have enough money for anything else.
I got about 7,000 left.
Yeah.
I will add that, and I don't know, Steve was probably around, that has failed in the past, and that's an area where we get heavy rains, much like tonight, or heavier than that. It floods and it has actually washed out the driveway at 941 Willow, I believe, at least twice, and caused some damage. So it's kind of a critical part of our infrastructure, but that's all I pretty much have to say on that.
I'm sure Barb can tell you is that 942 there at the corner there, they're actually planning on replacing their driveway too. So to keep that in mind.
Now,
And
there's
this
an actual.
this would go under the driveway and under the culvert. Is that, how deep is it, Kyle?
It starts at probably 32 inches at the catch basin and then it drops basically to the bottom, or when you see the pipe come out at the creek, it's down about 4 feet, 5 feet.
How big a pipe?
That I don't know. I'm assuming it's at least a 12-inch pipe. And probably concrete.
And that's the quote for 11,000.
That's what their quote is.
1,370. Eugene, that sounds like a question for you. Where can we find $11,000?
Appropriate fund.
Check receipts when they all
There
leave.
was some money left in the account.
What's that?
There was some money.
There's about 7,000 left. 6,000
months to go. But that's also include that I gotta save some of that for street signs, potholes, stuff like that. This was brought to my attention by the homeowner there, and I walked the yard, and it's, parts of the yard are collapsing into the pipe. So I'm not sure how much longer it will last.
We don't want to. That's
What's the time frame of the driver replacement? Because we probably
Can we line it?
What?
Line it?
Can we line it? Or is it too far gone?
I can
Mine-
absolutely take a look at it, but that's gonna cost money.
So when Kyle and I took a look at it, there was literally holes probably, I want to say every 5 feet there towards the end. So my guess is that like all the other culverts that are in the villages, it's really far gone along that whole route, and it'd be a hard time to try and line it.
Okay.
So,
Idea, just thought.
does that catch basin only feeds that one concrete tile going to the creek? That's what, like 50 feet there?
To the creek?
Is that the termination of that line? Is that catch basin, or does that catch basin have an inlet on the other side?
No, I'm 99% sure that it only has that line feeding out from it.
So would it be cheaper or easier, since he's redoing his driveway and has to put culverts in, to abandon that one in place, fill it with gravel, and then just have him, or regrade that swale and put a bigger culvert under his driveway?
There actually isn't a swale per se along the front of that house. It basically all kind of goes in towards that front yard. So you'd end up having to make a swale out of that whole yard there.
Would that be cheaper or easier?
It'd probably be about the same cost wise.
Or would that save us money in the future? I know. I do also know that's also been a headache. How many times you had to clean that out and issues, or is that because it's been failing?
Probably because it's been failing. If we line it the way, if we use PVC's got 75 to 100-year lifespan.
Mhm.
I'm not worried about it by then.
Okay.
I don't think we'll find you again.
You're still gonna be here, Kyle.
Great, so
I don't plan on going anywhere.
Joe, to answer your question though, Joe, I think your cost wise, you're looking about the same.
Okay.
If I use the excavator, they're about $5,000 a day. And it'll probably be a 2-day project, and then materials and dumping and all that.
Okay. It was just a suggestion. I didn't know, so I thought I'd ask a question. So.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to ponder this one for a couple of weeks, see if we can find some funds.
What, as I said, what's the time frame on his driveway? Does he know that? Would that be?
They were willing to wait, I think.
They were, I did get a Julie locate notice for the driveway though.
They have the permit.
Yeah, they're looking
They're
to
just
do the
waiting
driveway.
for weather and scheduling of the contractor.
Would you have to dig it up possibly, Kyle, to do this work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can contact the homeowner and see if they are willing to wait a little longer. I'm not sure if they'll be on board or not. I know when I talked to the homeowner, they were totally fine with us them holding off and us digging up because they don't want to have basically a patch from where we cut the driveway to the street. So I can talk to them again and see. It's gonna be hard because I don't really have an answer as far as timeline wise, since we don't know where we're pulling the funds from. But I can talk to them.
We'll know within 2 weeks. Whether we can find the funds.
Sounds like you have to.
Yeah. And if we don't have the funds, I guess we'll just go down that road another year.
Okay. All right. Table that for 6:20.
Item A.
Back to item A.
So, in 2015, the village code was amended to provide that the owner of any property in the village is responsible at all times for a culvert on his entrance driveway. That would be for cleaning it, maintaining it, repairing it, or replacing it when any replacement or repair to the driveway is necessary. Did that answer your question, Mr. Nemec?
Well, we also had that, we just amended within the last few years about somebody putting, I don't want to say infrastructure, but putting items over easements or water mains or otherwise. So that section of the driveway that's on the village right of way where the culvert is, if we have to dig that up, it's our responsibility to repair it to it's the same condition, or just to fill it in with gravel, or do we have to replace the culvert if we, so what are our responsibilities there?
So this is not a problem with the culvert per se, it's a problem with the water line. Right?
Well, no, so at 112 Hilltop, there was a main break in the middle of the driveway. And then the culvert at the end of the driveway was damaged from the excavator rolling over it to dig the main break up to fix the water main. It's a water main, it's not a water service line, so the full main.
No, it's our side of the Buffalo box, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, it's the main.
Yeah. So then the culvert was smashed. I don't know how good of shape the culvert was in before we got there, probably not very good, but it got smashed down by the excavator when we dug to fix the water main. So then I had a quote for our patch on the driveway with the culvert in there too. I think that's what Joe wanted to know is, are we responsible for the culvert?
Because the driveway obstructed your access to the water main?
The water main, the hole was in the middle of the driveway. So you have the street and then the
Correct, so that's what
driveway
I'm
that
saying,
2
the
feet
only
later.
way to get to the water main was to tear up the driveway.
Right.
And in the process, we destroyed the culvert. We don't know what the culvert condition was in, but
Can't tell.
can't tell now. It's gone, we ran over it, so do we replace it, or do we say, so sorry, that's homeowner's responsibility?
Isn't it the homeowner's responsibility?
Technically, the culvert under your drive is your responsibility.
To split it
Well,
50/50, yeah, I do.
But
Well,
technically,
if my car is parked on the street and the police car runs into my car, who pays for it?
well, the first issue is the driveway shouldn't be over the water main.
Well,
But that's
the entire
so
time.
historical, then what are you
Yeah.
gonna do about that?
Yeah.
And, you want to avoid that in the future, but I mean, my Buffalo box is in the middle of my driveway, so I guess I got the same problem going.
Do you want some time to think about this, Mark? Do we have to do it now, Kyle?
Yeah, there's no good answer here.
The sooner the answer, the better. They've been waiting since April. And right now their driveway's it's gravel. But you want
What's been that delay for 2 months, for 6 weeks?
what's that?
Why is there that?
Oh, well, the asphalt plants weren't open, and then I got Sandman's quote.
Open late?
Yeah.
Is this $5,700 for the whole thing? Is this his whole driveway?
No, it's from where we cut the driveway to dig to the street and including the culvert. So it's about halfway up the driveway. That's where
It's
we would pay
26 feet up.
And couldn't go around the culvert.
through the swale full of water.
Yeah.
Get stuck.
Get stuck. The only way to get to it was on the guy's driveway.
We've had this happen, we've had this happen before. There was a driveway in the bluffs.
Yep. No, well, there's a driveway over on Rainbow Court.
Right, and we just patched it, but
It's patching.
Right, but it doesn't usually involve the culvert.
usually, no.
We're gonna table this to the 20th?
I get you more, a little bit more organized response by then for sure.
Okay. We'll table it to the 20th, Joe.
That's not my department. It's not my department. Oh, I guess it is my department. Okay, sounds good. And I'm good with whatever Mark's decision is, so.
Okay. Well, he just decided he's taking us all out to Vans for a treat this evening.
As I said, I'm just trying to be fiscally responsible and do what is legally correct and be consistent in our application of the rules, so.
We have to make this part of a consistent policy.
Okay. There's no need for executive session this evening, so we are at the end of the agenda, and I will entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved, yeah, like,
Second, Thorne.
Moved by Diatley, seconded by Thorne. Roll call, please. Mr. Dally.
aye.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
Mr. Thorne.
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Really, Jeff.